What's up, you guys? Time to shoot the shit once again. What are we shooting the shit about today? One man and one man only, and that is good old Chuck Schuldiner. And I figured since we're talking about the man himself, might as well, for the background blasphemies, have death, scream, bloody gore playing in the background. So, the main reason I want to talk to you about this is because I recently saw Death by Metal, the death documentary, outlining from the Mantis days all the way to Chuck's death. In 2000, what was it, 2004, 2001? I forgot, honestly, to be honest, when Chuck died. I'm pretty sure it's 2001. But anyways, I digress. So, it outlines everything to a T, definitely. Talks to many of the Death band members, Gene Hoglan, Bobby Keelbley, homie from Cynic, I forgot his name, Shannon from Symbolic and on. Many people, Terry Butler for sure. I mean, pretty much everyone who had something to do with death at some point. Steve DiGiorgio. It's a very well done documentary. It's on Prime if you guys want to check it out. Death by Metal. It's my third time watching it. I kind of just wanted to see it again, just to actually for this video. Death, don't get me wrong. Chuck Schuldiner wrote some of the best fucking death metal of all fucking time. I mean, come on, Scream, Bloody Gore, Leprosy, Spiritual Healing, to say the least, man. I mean, goddamn, he wrote fucking amazing music. He was a visionary, he knew what he wanted, and goddamn could he write a song. Had some of the best fucking death metal vocals I feel of all time, at least for their first three albums. And, he's a legend. Can't deny that. But what I mainly want to focus on today is the flaws this man had. I mean, goddamn, Chuck was kind of a fucking diva, man. Like, holy shit, he was fucking picky. And he just could not follow through with tours. It was fucking ridiculous. And he let a lot of people down, a lot of promoters down, a lot of fans down back in the day. But you know what? Once he died, of course, it's forgivable to, forgive everything that he did, But I'm pretty sure if he was alive today, it would be a very different story. For sure, at the end of his days, Chuck had wanted nothing to do with death metal, man. He wanted no relation to it. He didn't want to be associated with it at all. And by the end of the documentary, it's really clear how he just basically despised it at the end, which is kind of a bummer, seeing as he was one of the pioneers, for sure. The age-old debate, Possessed or Death, who started it? Who started death metal? For sure, I think it was Possessed, but if you say Scream, Bloody Gore, Death, yeah, for sure. Mantis, goddamn, those guys in 84 were writing some of the fucking craziest fucking death metal out there at the time. So, yeah, either way, the argument goes either way for me. But I wrote down some stuff here that I really wanted to just point out, because holy shit, man. Like I said, Chuck was a picky motherfucker, man. So, anyways, the first thing I have here, Scream, Bloody Gore release. Death was set to play with Sadis back in California once, all the test pressings were there and the album was in rotation for a while. And of course, at the time, Steve DiGiorgio was involved. Chris Reifert, of course, of the Almighty Autopsy was involved. Chris and Chuck being the only members on the record. But see, I always thought Chuck played the bass, but for some reason, when DiGiorgio is talking, he's talking about he was 18 and he was on vinyl, so I guess he did the session bass for the record? I don't know. I always thought it was, Chuck who handled all the strings, but I guess DiGiorgio had something to do with it too. But anyways, after that, they were set to play with Sadis, a show in California. But Chuck was like, you know what? Nah, I'm just going to go back to Florida to visit my parents and visit some family, and then I'll get back to the show. But never showed. Calls Reifert a few days later, says, hey man, I'm going to stick down in Florida. You're welcome to come down here, and, we'll look for some other players. And Reifert, of course, was, tied down in California, so he was like, I can't do it. So he fucking ditched Reifert. First one out of the fucking can. But of course, if that hadn't happened, we might have never gotten Autopsy, so, things happen for a reason, right? It's fucking crazy. Oh, and this is a big one here. Back around the Leprosy days, back when Bill Andrews, Terry Butler, and Rick Ross joined the band, of course, the Leprosy lineup, fucking awesome fucking lineup. Bill, Terry, and Rick were off of Massacre, of course, the almighty Massacre. Well, I wouldn't say almighty. I mean, they had like one good album and stuff, but From Beyond is fucking sick as fuck. Yeah, that album artwork though, I never got used to it. It's so silly. But anyways, if you guys know that that show they played with Dark Angel, apparently that was, you know, part of the tour. It's I think, what is it called? I have it on VHS. It's the Combat Tour. I think it's Forbidden, Dark Angel, Death, of course. It's someone else, man. But, you know, point is, they were supposed to be touring with Dark Angel, and it was understood that they were going to be co-headlining. But it was kind of unsaid that Dark Angel was a true headliner. And apparently when, you know, you saw the flyer, it was Dark Angel basically at the top. It was in Dark Angel and Death at the top and everyone else at the bottom. Chuck had a problem with that. He just did not want to fucking do that. He thought he was going to be the headliner. Not the case. So anyways, as, you know, the tour is going on, they keep butting heads with Dark Angel. And apparently the straw that broke the camel's back was that one show, apparently there was Dark Angel's drum set on the riser, and Bill's set was like under it. And I guess that fucking threw Chuck over the edge. Left mid-tour. Like, what the fuck, man? It's fucking crazy. This guy just cannot handle not being, I hate to say it, the center of attention, it seems like. Like, holy shit, like, just fucking deal with it, man. You're out on tour. You're promoting your fucking band. You're promoting your fucking album. Like, holy fucking shit. Like, fuck, man. It's fucking crazy. Anyways, so that's the Dark Angel fuck up there. And apparently not too long after that, got rid of Rick Ross. That wouldn't be so bad if he did it in person or at least called the man, but he fired him by proxy. He actually told his manager that he wanted to get rid of Rick Ross. So his manager actually called Rick Ross to tell him that he was out. And Rick honestly saw it coming. You can see it in the documentary. He's like, yeah, I kind of figured that, you know, it was the end for me, but I would have appreciated at least a call or, you know, something from Chuck. But Chuck was just like, yeah, I want him out. Another one out. Another one bites the dust, man. That's pretty shitty. Don't get me wrong. That's fucking shitty. So now, James Murphy, the almighty James Murphy, off of, you know, Cancer's Death Shall Rise, what else was it? Obituary, Cause of Death, for fuck's sake. This was before that, obviously. But James Murphy joins the lineup for Spiritual Healing. Fucking God tier album, for sure. I mean, I know some people don't really regard it as great as Leprosy or Scream Bloody Gore. For me, it's those three, man. Those three are the mains, for sure. But anyways, as they're touring with Devastation from Texas, James Murphy and Chuck Schuldiner are just butting heads the whole time. Apparently, Chuck wasn't really a big fan of James Murphy's wit, so he basically just left him. He ditched him, and he had to hitch a ride with Devastation back home. Yet another one bites the dust, man. Like, holy fucking shit, man. See where this is going? See where this is going, man? Chuck, picky motherfucker. Okay, let's see. What's next here? Oh, this is a good one. So, Death was slated to play Europe for the first time with Creator of all fucking bands. Fucking what a lineup, right? Fucking insane. Everything was fucking set. The T's were crossed, the dots were, the I's were dotted. Everything was good to go. But apparently a few weeks prior to the tour, Chuck backs out. He's like, you know what? No, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want to go to Europe. I might get homesick. I don't want to do it. So backs out of the fucking tour with Creator in Europe. First fucking European tour. All these fans looking forward to fucking hearing Leprosy, Spiritual Healing, and Scream Bloody Gore tracks, for fuck's sake. Imagine being a fan. Maybe Death was your main go-to. Maybe you've seen Creator a few times already, and you just do not want to mainly just go see them. You want to see some fucking Death. And Death just backs out. But they did not really back out because they were contractually obligated to go over there and play shows. So what did the label do? They're like, all right, Chuck, you don't want to go? We're going to send Death without you. That's right. Death played a tour without Chuck Schuldiner in Europe, which is fucking bananas to fucking think about, man. I think Murphy was in the set, of course, Terry. I think Bill was on there, but I forgot who the vocalist was, but that's fucking insane, if you ask me. If you ask me, that's just fucking crazy. That's fucking wild. And apparently Chuck saw that Death was overseas, saw that they were, garnering success, as they should, because it's fucking Death. He kind of regretted his decision, called up the promoter and said, hey, I want to jump in on this tour. Death is my fucking band. And the fucking promoter was like, no, man, you had your chance. You can't come on the fucking tour anymore. And Creator doesn't want you here because you have a reputation of leaving tours midway. So it didn't happen. Chuck fucking just dealt with it. But what happened then? Got rid of Terry, got rid of Bill, got rid of everyone else. Of course, James also played, I think, in that tour, so he was already out. But of course, that meant Terry and Bill, 2 more bite the dust. See where this is going, man? There's a fucking pattern here. Fucking insane, man. Anyways, so Human comes around. I think this is around the Human tour. I forgot to write it down. But Chuck goes back to Europe finally with a new lineup, new Human lineup. Homies from Cynic going on there. But they actually do play Europe this time. They actually go over and play some fucking shows in Europe. Which, fuck yeah, finally we're making some progress, right? But then what happens? Oh man. 2 weeks in, he gets homesick, gets to Germany, has a fucking fight with the promoter. Granted, everyone else got sick. His manager got sick. Sean, the fucking drummer at the time, got sick. So, Sean Reinert, from Cynic, got sick too. So, there was a lot of shit going on there. Granted, that could have been, maybe a day or 2 missed, maybe 3 missed. Apparently the story was that they were, driving through France. And apparently they were touring with a French band as well. And they were in the bus basically the whole time, and they were just smoking cigarettes all the time. The whole fucking way, the whole fucking tour, they were smoking cigarettes. And the whole band got sick, basically. Like, even the fucking manager, he was diabetic also, so that actually played a part in it too. So they all got pretty much sick from being fucking hotboxed, basically, with fucking cigarette smoke, which is pretty unbearable, don't get me wrong. I kind of would be uncomfortable too. Back then, times were different. Sure, fucking cigarette smoke wasn't viewed as fucking toxic as it is today. So I can't really blame them on that. But, like I said, Sean got sick, manager got sick. They could have played a few more days, missed some days, come back and finish the tour. No. Chuck was like, fuck no. I don't want to do it anymore. Let's fucking dip. And they did. They were midway through the fucking tour, once again. And Chuck just bailed. Also a big standout on this fucking tour, he demanded that all their gear that they've been using the entire recording session for Human to be shipped to Europe to play the exact amps and guitars they've been using over there, which is a fucking hassle, especially back in the day, shipping all that equipment to meet you overseas. He could have just used the other band's equipment, but no, Chuck was picky again. He wanted to use the band's gear, and that was it. That was his demand. So, okay, the manager said, fine, we'll do that. So what happens? Midway through the tour, promoters don't get paid. Venues, of course, are let down. So they end up owning a lot of money to this promoter. So what happens? They put a lien on the gear. So once Chuck makes it back home with all these guys, the promoter keeps the equipment, keeps the gear, because you're like, fuck you. He's like, fuck you, you owe me money. So another fucking headache due to not fucking just coming through with finishing a goddamn tour in Europe. Death was cursed in Europe, apparently. So anyways, they make it back home, had to pay all this fucking money, and they didn't get their gear back until like a year later, which is pretty fucked up. So it's pretty fucked up, man. They struggled to get out of Europe. They had basically no fucking money. I think they stopped the tour in Germany, and then they had to make their way off to London to get the returning flights to the States. So they kind of had to make a trek over to London to make it back home. So that's fucking difficult. I can imagine that's not a fucking easy trek, especially with no fucking money and basically no transportation, at least feasible transportation to get over there. So that could have been easily avoided. That really could have. So after that disaster, Chuck tells his manager, hey man, this was a fucking mess. Like, I kind of blame you for this. And fires him on the spot. Fires his manager. Apparently, I guess he didn't handle it well, but it's like, what the fuck do you want him to do, Chuck? He's overseas, the man is fucking sick, he's diabetic, he's basically crashing down, and then you fucking put all this other weight on him? So he gets rid of him, for sure. And Sean Reinert, who was also sick, doesn't even get a call from Chuck. He expects to still be in the band, is waiting to get the fucking, individual thought patterns sessions down. And apparently, Steve DiGiorgio calls Sean and says, hey man, Chuck's got another drummer in here. He's got Hoagland in here, Gene Hoagland. So Reinert's like, okay. And in the documentary, you hear him say like, I wouldn't have cared if Chuck would have gotten rid of me, but it would have been nice for Chuck to at least personally call me and say, hey man, we're going with Gene on this one. You know, thanks for all you've done. Later. No, didn't even tell the man that he was fired. Just expected him to, I guess, get the hint, or I guess someone to tell him by proxy again. And that was DiGiorgio this time. So that's pretty fucked up. Pretty fucked up, man. It's fucking insane. Like, the fact that you don't even tell a member that basically went through all this shit with you and went through a whole recording session with you with a human, and you don't even have the decency to tell the man, hey man, you're not in here anymore. Thanks for all you did. See ya. Good luck. No. You're just like, you'll figure it out. Pretty shitty, man. Pretty fucking shitty. Let's see, what else do I have here? Okay. Oh, big one right here. Big one. Symbolic. This is around the time where Death was taking a huge change in the direction of where they were going. Sure, it was still, I guess, to some extent death metal, but it was basically more progressive death metal. I mean, Symbolic, I love Symbolic for sure. It's one of the best fucking albums Death has ever done. I like them way more than Human and Individual Thought Patterns for sure. Symbolic is a hell of a fucking album, but I guess it would be more proggy death metal. It's not really proggy, it's just more, it's funny, it sounds more heavy metal-ish for sure, especially with songs like Crystal Mountain and shit and Thousand Eyes. Definitely does sound a little more on the kind of heavy metal, heavy death side, I guess you would call it. Not really a pure death metal album, but still pretty fucking good. Anyways, this was also around the time where Chuck really didn't want to be associated with death metal at all. He told Roadrunner, hey man, I don't want to be associated with death metal at all. Please keep me out of the ads. That includes other death metal bands. We're not fucking death metal anymore. Just fucking drop it. We're not death metal. We're death. Sure, we started this shit, but we don't care. I don't care. I don't want to be associated with this. So, what happens? Symbolic finally gets advertised. But it was advertised with other fucking great fucking albums. I guess they were being re-released at the time, but they were advertised, of course, with, the Roadrunner lineup at the time, which was, it had, I saw the ad on the documentary, it had Once Upon the Cross on there and Pierce From Within, Deicide and Suffocation, respectively. Chuck saw this, flipped his lid, called Roadrunner and said, what the fuck is this shit? I told you not to do this. What the fuck is this about? Roadrunner's like, well, you're still a death metal band in our book. So it's like, but dude, it's like, just fucking deal with it, man. Just deal with it. It's not really that bad. At least I don't think so. Like, there's also some excerpts in the documentary where Chuck's being interviewed and he kind of throws shade at death metal for sure. He's like, yeah, it's, death metal, our lyrical themes are, about life, real horrors and shit like that. It's not always about nuns and fucking demons, swiping nuns from the earth and taking them to hell. Like, that's fucking, pretty much, it's fucking stupid. That's basically what he said. Which is kind of a bummer, man, because I mean, sure, it's fine that you're not really feeling the whole satanic, evil, brutal side of death metal anymore, but it's like, I mean, you still have peers in the scene that really, this is their livelihood, man, and that's, that's their niche. That's what they sing about. That's what most fans want out of death metal. At least that's what I want in my death metal, is fucking blood, guts, and gore, for sure. And Satan, 100%. But yeah, man, he flipped his lid about that, and I just didn't understand. I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ, Chuck, like, this is fucking insane. And there was another instance early on. What was it? I forgot to write it down. But apparently, I think it was before they were offered. Yeah. It was during the European tour, the first European tour he dipped out on. They hired a guitar player to replace Rick Ross. And Chuck didn't want to fucking... Yeah, it was the one before that, the one they actually went to. Yes, so this was before James Murphy. So, before James Murphy came another guitarist, wanted to go to Europe, as, fucking last attempt to get someone on the strings. And apparently he went to Chuck's house, Merciful Fate was blasting, which is very respectable. Fuck yeah, Chuck, good choice. And he heard a vacuum cleaner inside the fucking house, and he knocked. All of a sudden, the music shuts off. The vacuum cleaner goes off. He kind of sees Chuck peeking through the blinds. Knocks again. Chuck, you in there? Chuck? Doesn't answer. The dude doesn't answer. So he's like, he calls up, I think, Terry at the time. He's like, what the fuck's going on here, Terry? Like, does Chuck still want me in here? And Terry was just like, dude, that's just Chuck. So that didn't happen. Let me change it to side B here. Side B, Scream Bloody Gore. Good old Chuck, man. Fucking wild to see the man behind closed doors. Fucking insane. But he wrote some amazing fucking death metal. That for sure is a fact that's never going to change. Alright, let's see what else I have here. Oh, this is a fucking good one, man. So, this is around the time, I think, Individual Thought Patterns already came out. I think they were just doing a tour, another tour in Europe. This one with Benediction. So, of course, this is when Gene, Bobby Kilbley, and Individual Thought Patterns tour, I think. So, Bobby Kilbley and Gene are in the lineup too. So, they're in tour Benediction. It's going okay so far. But one night, Benediction stops to, do kind of an offhand show for some fans. It was a dead show, by the way. Benediction, I guess, just did it because, they were like, why not? Let's just fucking play a show. Chuck, of course, stays in the bus. Gene and Bobby go in there and check Benediction out. So, in the middle of the fucking show, Benediction says, hey, man, we have Gene and Bobby here from Death. Like, they're going to come up and do a song. And Bobby was like, what? Like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And Gene was like, yeah, fuck it, let's fucking do it. So they fucking do it. They're like, I don't know what the fuck to play. So we're like, okay, Zombie Ritual. Let's fucking do Zombie Ritual. So they play it. Now, from the horse's mouth, Bobby says, in that Benediction show, in that gig, there was 5 people in the audience. Dead, dude. Deader than dead. It was probably fucking 3 fans and the staff, probably. 5 fucking people, you guys. 5 people, okay? So apparently they get, through Zombie Ritual, they got the sound guy, I think his name was Paul or something, to sing. So they're like, okay, yeah, whatever, no big deal, let's fucking do this, and it was a fucking success, right? It was fucking alright. Apparently, next day, Chuck hears about it. He's fucking pissed off. Fucking confronts Gene and Bobby about it, sits them down, pretty much like kind of Godfather style, and says, that was disrespectful. Why the fuck did you do that? That was fucking disrespectful. And Bobby and Gene are kind of like, dude, what's the big deal? There was 5 people in there. And he's like, let's see, what else do I have here? Apparently Chuck was beyond pissed off about this fact. That Bobby and Gene played Zombie Ritual. 1 song, mind you. Not a whole fucking set. Not more than 2 songs. Zombie Ritual. Not even with him. It was basically just a cover band playing up there. And apparently, Chuck flipped his lid once again and said, you shouldn't have done that. That was disrespectful. I'm fucking pissed off. And apparently, in the middle of the conversation, Bobby says, he spoke up. He's like, hey, Chuck, I just really didn't think it was a big deal, man. Like, I'm sorry, but like this, there was no one there. So I don't know what's wrong with this. And apparently Chuck told him, Bobby, you're conjuring a dick. What the fuck does that even mean? You're conjuring a dick? Man, dude, Chuck was a trip, man. But yeah, and apparently after that, I think a little bit before that, Gene is also talking about how the last 10 days of that tour were the worst. Like, they were so fucking bad. Like, it was so bad that he was gonna quit after that tour was done. He just couldn't stand Chuck. Apparently, Gene did something to really piss off Chuck, and Chuck just made his life hell for the last few days on that tour. And Gene was just like, okay, well, I'm quitting, so fuck it. I'll just finish this tour and I'm just gonna quit. But apparently, after that tour was done, Chuck basically said, hey man, this is the last time we're playing. Like, that's it. Like, you're out after this. And Gene's like, whew. Didn't have to quit, because I was definitely gonna quit, because this guy's a fucking headache to be around. Like, holy shit. But yeah, man, that's basically all I got here. After that, they talk about, the last days of death, and how they talk about how originally the Sound of Perseverance was supposed to have another singer, was supposed to have clean vocals. Chuck didn't want to sing anymore. He didn't want to do anything to do with death metal vocals at all anymore. Apparently he was really good at singing, like, kind of in the heavy metal style. The producer that talks in the documentary says that he wished he could have recorded Chuck singing like that, which would have been cool to hear. Don't get me wrong, that would have been pretty badass. But, the label's like, no, you're not going to play fucking Death with a fucking different singer. Like, that's not going to happen. So Death begrudgingly recorded Sound of Perseverance vocals, but he didn't want to, which led to the formation of Control Denied. And that, of course, was, a side project that didn't really see much, because during Control Denied, Chuck basically was told that he had a brain tumor. And during the recording sessions, the album was still being recorded, it was still being mixed, and he was in a hospital bed listening to all the tracks. And it's very sad, man. To be honest, it's very sad to hear about his last days. I mean, Riper talks about it, Bobby talks about it, how Steve DiGiorgio talks about it, how, it was unexpected. Like, it was awful. It's horrible. Like, it's really, really horrible. He was basically on a new journey with Control Denied. He was done with death, and he unfortunately had to spend his last moments in the hospital bed. And it sucks. It really does suck, man. I mean, he was definitely gone too soon. It would have for sure been interesting to see what Chuck Schuldiner would have been doing today. I mean, I think he would have been 60, a little maybe in his early 60s, by now. For sure, Death would have definitely done some reunion tours. I don't doubt that at all. I don't think he would have recorded any more Death records at all, for sure. No death metal at all. Maybe he would have done some fucking heavy metal records, which would have been pretty cool to see. That would have been pretty cool to hear too. But yeah, Control Denied was basically the last recordings that Chuck Schuldiner left. So that sucks. But yeah, man, I mean, it's very eye-opening, this documentary. It really sheds a light on who Chuck really was. And again, like I said, everyone has their flaws. No one's perfect in the scene. I mean, look at Kerry King. He has a reputation of being a dick as well. Glenn Benton, surprisingly enough, people say he's a dick, but I never thought so. I just thought he was just, very stoic. I'm sure people have horror stories about him too, but I never pegged Glenn as a picky motherfucker, at least not as much as Chuck did. Because Glenn, people think that he's basically, the final word in Deicide, and it's not true. Glenn and Steve Asime, they're the word of Deicide. They're the final word of Deicide. It's always been Steve and Glenn, always. I mean, he said himself, with the Hoffman brothers, they were just basically on a free ride. Like, he just basically told him, like, near the end, like, hey man, you're just here for the ride, so as long as you don't fuck up, just stay here. So I never really saw Glenn as a control freak or as a dick at all. I still don't to this day. I think he's fucking awesome, to be honest. I luckily got a picture with Glenn once with a group of friends, and I still don't know where the fuck that picture is, but I'm gonna find it one day, goddammit, because that's a very hard feat. Not a lot of people have done that. But anyways, it's the other douchebags in the scene. Sure there's other ones, but I can't think of any right now. But you know what? I don't think Chuck was necessarily a douche. I mean, maybe to some extent, but he was just very controlling. And he was very picky, and he was very driven to having his way, basically. I mean, he for sure was the dictator in death. It was his thing. And everyone who left the band, who talks about it, had no problem leaving the band because that was Chuck's thing. And they knew that from the beginning. Chuck, makes the calls. But the fact that he got rid of him so shittily, that's what kind of sucks about it. Like, in that regard, I do see him as kind of a dick, man. That's pretty dickish to do to somebody. Like, just fucking not even telling them that they're not in your band anymore and just basically saying like, well, he'll find out. That's not really cool, man. That's not cool at all. And also, last thing I want to share with you guys here is, I heard this years ago. This is a Hellcast episode, number 25, Quartet of Nerds. If you guys want to check it out, it's on YouTube and Spotify. There it is right there. I heard this years ago. I want to say, fuck, man, close to like 5 years ago, probably. Shit, man. Oh, more than that, man. Probably like almost 10 years ago now, dude. Fuck, it's fucking crazy. Anyway, the Patchmaster, forget his name, I think Chuck's his name, funnily enough. The quartet is, of course, Eddie Satan, Reaper, Dawn of the Dead from Nunslaughter, and Chuck the Patchmaster. He actually talks about Chuck Schuldiner at the end of his life, at the end of the podcast, I mean, and, talks about how he never really met anyone who was a fan of Chuck. And I will play you the excerpt now. Actually, I'll turn on this speaker here. Maybe you guys can hear it better. Okay, let me play it here. All right, let's see. Here we go, you guys.
I hate Jerk. I really like those fucking later deaths. But, I mean, was he really in touch with Deathmo at that point? Like,
you know what's funny about... Oh, man. What's funny about Schuldiner?
You know what's funny about
Schuldiner?
They don't know your email address.
When that guy was alive, I only knew one guy that liked that guy. Everybody else talked shit about the guy. Nobody liked the guy, and everybody thought, that guy's a dickhead. Anybody from a record label you ever talked to, Chuck Schuldiner's a dickhead. The guy dies, everybody's, he's the greatest guy ever. It's like,
what we talking about before with
one
Dios.
guy that liked the guy.
Somebody dies.
Wasn't that one guy that ever, that...
Everyone's fucking pitching a tent once he dies. Oh, it was so great.
Richard Christie's the only guy I knew before he died that liked
that guy. Seems so dumb.
Anybody else did not like
that guy's out there though.
Never met one guy who had anything nice to say about Chuck Schuldiner.
Dude, there's every fucking band. I mean, could you?
There we go, you guys. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, Chuck, like I said, for sure will definitely be one of the godfathers of death metal. I'm not taking that away from him at all. I'm sure many of you guys still regard him as, the greatest of all time, but he definitely had his flaws. And that's just something that I was very shocked to find when I first saw the documentary. I'm like, holy shit, I mean, people have good things to say, but a lot of bad shit to say about this guy, which is kind of crazy. But anyways, you guys, that's what I wanted to shoot the shit about today. Shed some new light on good old evil Chuck. And, man, I still say, rest in peace, Chuck. Wrote amazing music. Still a shame that he left in such a bad way, such a tragic way with a brain tumor. But you know what? I mean, the man is not here to defend himself to this day. So we can't really just, peg him as a douchebag. But from everything that I've heard, from, stuff that others have heard, straight from the horse's mouth, Chuck wasn't that cool of a guy, which is crazy to think about. But anyways, you guys, I really want to know what you guys think about this. Let me know if you guys, are fans of death, aren't fans of death, or are fans of Chuck, or are not fans of Chuck, and are as shocked, can't even speak today, as shocked as I was to pretty much find out about this, about Chuck. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me once again in Shooting the Shit. Hope you guys have a great fucking day, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Later.